Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Abigail and I have special needs as well as health issues. I'm also on a feeding tube and I share my life having special needs and health issues. And I was thinking about what I was going to talk about in today's video, and the thought came to me of something about turning your pain into a purpose or something positive. And I've always tried to look at the positive side of the situation. If you don't know, I am completely tube fed, besides I can have some kind of ice cream and some kind of candy by mouth, but other than that, I'm completely tube fed. And the reason why I wanted to talk about turning your pain into, I guess you could say, something positive or helpful, kind of thinking about my life in the past and how things have changed. If you don't know, I was born with a birth defect called congenital diaphragmatic hernia. It's also known as CDH. The easiest way to explain it is several of my insides were in the wrong spot when I was born. And so I had emergency surgery as a baby to put all my insides back in the right spot. And due to how sick I was and having to be on oxygen for a long time, it caused developmental delays. And then after I got older, I started having some health issues. When I was 19, I started having health issues, and I had to have a surgery that didn't end the way that we expected. Actually, I think I was 19. I don't remember. It was a few years ago. And I had a surgery that caused gastroparesis, which is where my stomach is partially paralyzed. And then I was on what's called the gastroparesis diet, which is basically eating small amounts every few hours. And you basically take the meal that you used to be able to eat and cut it in half. So instead of me eating a kid-sized meal 3 times a day, I would eat a toddler-sized meal every other hour, with an hour for my food to digest. And so when I was I think I was 19 or so, is when my nerve got hit during surgery. It caused my stomach to be partially paralyzed, and that was a hard time in my life because I had to not just cut my meals in half, but some of the things that I used to could eat, I couldn't eat anymore, because also it slows down your digestive system. So my food was digesting slower than it should because my stomach is partially paralyzed. And it was this big change in my life, and it was really, really difficult. I would have a lot of the same foods over and over again, and it got really depressing. And I ended up having to be put on some depression meds for a while because it really, really affected me emotionally. And so I was on the gastroparesis diet for a few years, and then I started having health issues again, and we found out that I had another hernia. So this time, not only do I have a hernia, but I also have gastroparesis on top of it. And at that point, I couldn't hold down my food longer than, I think it was an hour, 30 minutes to an hour. I got sick on a daily basis, and I was losing a whole lot of weight. I was on protein shakes to get some calories in, but I would eat like actual food once a day and get sick like an hour later. And I started losing a whole lot of weight, and it was to the point that I didn't really need to lose anymore. So the surgeon was like, this was a different surgeon, by the way. There's a specialist that could do a feeding tube surgery on me. But he's like, the next visit, we might need to like schedule that surgery. So I went to go see the surgeon, and the next visit, he agreed that I needed this surgery. And in April of this year, I got a separate G tube and a separate J tube. Most people are aware of the G tube that goes to your stomach. That's the more common one. The J tube goes to my intestines. We got the G tube so that I could still have a few things by mouth and just vent it out. The J tube goes to my intestines. That's where I get my feedings because my stomach doesn't work right. And so I got the feeding tube back in April, like I said, and I gained a lot of really good weight on it. It was a lot to learn. It was a lot of like figure out how many bottles of formula I need every day, and the pump rating, which is like how fast the formula goes through the pump, and it was a lot to learn. But my favorite thing about getting on the feeding tube though was that I was full, and when you're full, you are satisfied. And we obviously didn't want this to have to happen, but with the health issues that I have, I am really thankful that it was an option, and it was something that I got to do to be able to not just get the calories I need and be able to keep it down, but I'm also full while doing that. So I am on a 24-hour feed, which means I'm basically just off my feeding tube long enough to shower or to change clothes, or every once in a while if I have like an appointment that's not going to be very long, like just going to the dentist and it's going to be like 30 minutes or something, every once in a while I'll be unhooked for a short period of time. But it's not like for days or anything like that, because this is how I get my calories. So as far as like the whole like depression thing goes and how that went, I was put on some depression meds. It was a couple years ago, I guess it was, and I was doing really well on those. I got in a lot better place mentally, and before I got on the depression meds, I would literally like go to the fridge, to the freezer, to like everywhere I could find food, and it was just like so depressing because like this was back whenever I could still eat by mouth, like after my gastroparesis diagnosis. It would be like really depressing because I would be like so burned out on what I could have, And then it got to a point where I could only have protein shakes, and then I'll get burned out on that. And it was just a lot of really back and forth. And, anyways, now I am constantly on my feeding tube, like I said, but I am satisfied with the formula that I have. I did quit gaining weight, but I am at the weight that the doctors want me to be at. And I am doing well. I share my journey having special needs and health issues to raise awareness for, what I go through, and hopefully show other people that they can do hard things and that it's okay to be honest about what you go through. I try really hard, not just on this channel, but also like personally, like people that I know personally, to be honest when I'm having a hard time. I've been having some heart rate issues, some issues where I feel like I'm going to faint, due to a different problem, and so I am on some medication for that, but I mostly wanted to talk about like kind of like how I handle, like mentally handle being a young adult with special needs and on a feeding tube. I handle it really well. I thankfully have a lot of support, not just on my channel, but people that know me personally are really supportive, and I'm really thankful for my surgeon and the medical team and everyone that made sure I was okay during surgery. And we had like all kinds of like churches like praying for me, and it was just it was a really sweet experience. So anyways, I just kind of wanted to share my journey on my feeding tube and kind of what led me to that. But I shared the good, the hard, the in between. But the main thing I try to do is focus on the good, focus on the positive as much as I can, because I think that your situation can really encourage someone else. So, anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye, everyone.